What would you do if you woke up in the middle of the night to see a host of UFOs right outside your bedroom window? But don't panic yet. These aliens aren't here to abduct you. They're here to put on a show. And then we take a look at the bizarre phenomenon of the purple lights. A seemingly ordinary problem with street lamps here in America, where the once bright white light is now replaced with an eerie purple glow. And while cities and scientists are quick to offer a rational answer, are these purple lights actually harmful to humans? Are these purple lights letting the lizard people know we're ready to be their dinner? Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. Last week was wacky. This week is wacky. I'm really trying to tone down the wackiness, not the content wackiness. That's here to stay, but just the release schedule has been nuts. I am still sick. I really didn't get to go see Five Nights at Freddy's this weekend. I bought 2 different tickets, and both times I had to cancel. So, I mean, I am doing good, but my stomach's killing me because I'm on that weight loss medication. The stomach bug is staying in me longer because my I mean, it's pretty, it sucks. I'll say that. I can't evacuate, as you might say, as much as my body wants to. So I've just been generally ill all weekend long and part of last week, and it just kind of sucks. I'm kind of just done with eating at this point. But someone who's never done with eating, someone who enjoys all the delicacy the world has to offer, running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Everyone get on your feet and give it up for Rico in Acapulco. Woohoo, yeah, he's running on and he's dancing with food in his hands. He's spilling it everywhere, dancing with bowls of soup. Rico in Acapulco made a donation during our Dead Rabbit Radio Thanksgiving live stream, and that is why he is going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially through the live streams or the merch store or the Patreon, I totally understand, I really do. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio, that helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Also, I gotta say this, we've sold a lot of merch recently. If you buy merch from the merch store, go ahead and take a photo of it or a photo of you in it. A lot of people crop their heads off, which I understand, but and then we'll give you a shout out too, because I don't actually see who buys the merch. I don't have like an email address or anything like that. So, if you bought some merch in the past or recently, send me a shot. Send me a photo and we'll give you a shout out as well. Really, really appreciate it. I do plan on seeing Five Nights at Freddy's at some point, too. Even though the critics, they hate it, the audience loves it. It makes me want to watch it more, but when I'm not feeling so terrible. Let's go ahead and get this party started, though. Rico in Acapulco. I'm going to go ahead, a longtime supporter of the show, Rico in Acapulco. I'm going to go ahead and toss you the key. Oh, this is a new vehicle. I think it's a new vehicle. I think, we've had so many over the past 1,500 plus episodes. Rico in Acapulco, I'm going to toss you the keys to the bunny bus. Everyone climb on board this long public transport vehicle. As Rico in Acapulco fires it up, we're leaving behind Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Why don't you drive us all the way out to Missouri? Psst. All aboard. That's the sound of people getting on the bus. There's a bunch of us using your footsteps for the next 10 minutes. And then the door shuts again. We're headed out to Missouri. And first off, I want to give a shout out to Odd Old News. It's a Substack, I think is what the website is called. Yeah. It is the only Substack I am subscribed to. Odd Old News is a Substack, and what he does is he just gets old newspaper clippings. And they are all weird. They're all super bizarre things, and I love stuff like this. And it's fascinating. We covered him before. I'll put the episode in the show notes. I don't remember what the exact topic was. But we've covered him before. We're doing it again, and honestly, there's so much content there. I don't want to just do his stories, but I easily could. Because it's awesome. So check out his Substack if you're into odd old news. A lot of great stuff there. And this story, it's very interesting because he posted this story just the other day. And through fact-checking it, I found some really, really interesting stuff about UFO phenomenon today. This story takes place back in the year 1875. And it actually has a hidden detail in it that skeptics for decades have been saying what this phenomenon actually is. And they're all wrong. They're all wrong because of this newspaper article. So, Odd Old News, thank you so much for posting this. The year is 1875. The month is April. April 1875. We're in Missouri. Specifically, we're in Sedalia, Missouri. It's around 11:30 p.m. on this April night. When you look at the old-timey articles, obviously words are different. So I did get a little confused about certain things. There is a hotel in the area called Central Hotel, but apparently they refer to the people who stay at the hotel as inmates. So right off the bat, I was like, wait, what? Is this a hotel for lunatics? Is it a hotel for prisoners? Or maybe that's just the term that they use. They're your mate and they're in a building with you. They're inmates. Anyways, what happens on this April 9th? I believe it was April 13th, but again, there was just weird wordage as to what day it was. They go, Wednesday last was the start of the... What does that mean? Is that the Wednesday yesterday? If this was published on Thursday, or was it Wednesday a week ago? Right? You're like, no, Jason, that one actually does make sense. It was not yesterday, but the week, Wednesday, whatever. It doesn't make sense to me. So anyways, 1875 newspaper talk. We do know it takes place on April 1875, possibly April 13th specifically. Anyways, it's late at night, and there's a man, we'll call him Jerry. He's in bed at this hotel. He's shackled to the bed. He's like, I'm telling you, I'm sane. My wife murdered herself. He's all going crazy. He finds himself waking up because there is a light shining in through his bedroom window, or his hotel room window. It's not super bright, but I think it's just kind of any light back then. 1875, you had zero light pollution. Light pollution if someone was holding a candle right underneath your retina. He wakes up and he's like, what in tarnation? What's that? He gets out of his bed and he looks and he sees several lights floating out near a field. An old field, a field that no one was really using at the time. Abandoned field would probably be another word for it. Jerry's like, what is that? And he notices what he's seeing is multiple balls of light, is how he describes them. Not super far off. He sees these balls of light, and he said that he wasn't the only one who witnessed it, but I should say witnesses say that the balls of lights ranged in size from anything from the size of an egg to ones as big as a man's head. So, I don't know if that's a distance, right? If you're looking at something 100 yards away, and it's a bright light as big as a man's head, it's bigger than that. I don't know. Jason, there's a lot of I don't knows in this segment. But anyways, old-timey writing. It's not me. It's the old-timers. They don't know how to write stuff. Anyway, so Jerry's like, what in the world's going on? Look at all that stuff. Look at all those lights floating around. So he begins going around the hotel and waking people up, being like, hey, Bobby, wake up. And the guy's like, huh, what? Did I get parole? Am I getting out of here? No, we're still inmates. But dude, look out the window. And Bobby looks out the window and he's like, Shazam! Look at those big old balls of light. So Jerry's going around to different hotel rooms and he's knocking on the door. He's rousing people. You gotta look outside. Lights. Lights are floating around. Until eventually you have quite a crowd of woken patrons at this hotel looking out at these lights. These lights were floating probably just 20 to 30 feet off the ground, so relatively low. And again, I couldn't figure out exactly how close, but close enough that you could see one of them was the size of an egg. And at this point, a lot of people are watching these things just kind of float outside the window, but One thing they all started to realize was the longer they watched, the more lights that appeared. Eventually, there were 50 separate lights floating out in the darkness. And they just kept watching. Now, these lights weren't just standing there perfectly. They were kind of moving around. Otherwise, they're stars, right? They're just there, motionless. Let me read this excerpt from the article. This article was published in the Sedalia Weekly Democrat, which is a newspaper for Sedalia, Missouri. It was the Thursday, April 22nd, 1875 edition. Quote, "They moved around like apples on disturbed water." First off, think about how old-timey when's the last time you've ever seen that? I don't think I've seen that since I was at an apple bobbing contest when I was 6. But back then, I guess that was pretty common. That would be the first thing you would go, oh, they look like apples in water. When's the last time? I mean, maybe I'm the odd man out. Maybe I'm the odd man of old odd news. But when's the last time you saw apples in water? If you saw something moving about to and fro, would you go, it reminds me of apples in water? Back then it was more common, I'm guessing. Quote, "They moved around like apples on disturbed water. Then, like they were engaged in a waltz. And at times, falling into ranks like soldiers, marching to and fro," unquote. Now, if this wasn't weird enough, it's pretty weird. Dancing lights, disturbed apples. Someone goes, "Hey, look over that way." And people did, they looked over, and so all of this was kind of happening on the eastern side of town with these lights. From the west, the inmates realized that there was a cloud approaching. And that was really the only way they could describe it. They said it seemed to be made up of this smoky color, but a cloud nonetheless. But it's very small. Not one of those big clouds. It's not one of those big clouds floating in the sky. This cloud is both the size and the shape of a human. And they see this cloudy humanoid begin floating across the area, seemingly headed in the direction of the dancing lights. As the floating man cloud gets closer, and also the cloud was standing upright. It wasn't like Superman. It wasn't like, he's all floating, because the clouds can look small and slender, and you could go, that looks like Superman flying through the sky. It's red and it's blue, and it just saved that cat. Wow, thanks, Cloud Superman. No, they said this looked like a man standing upright. So it wasn't Superman. That disappoints some of you. He was standing upright, but he was floating across the sky. As he got closer to the lights, the cloudy man began to change color. It went from a grayish or smoke color to becoming black. And not only does the color change, so does the shape. Eventually, this man cloud shapeshifts into the image of a coffin. Multiple witnesses, by the way. And multiple witnesses reported in the newspaper. Quite odd. We're not done yet, but if you read it on Reddit, you'd think someone was hitting the DMT a little too much. You'd think someone was losing their mind. But multiple witnesses published in the newspaper. This man morphs into a black coffin. He's continuing to float towards the lights. Once it reaches the old field, this floating image of a coffin is about 40 to 50 feet off the ground. At this point, the 50 lights begin to form a circle around it, like one after another is kind of falling in line. And once all of the lights are in a perfect circle around this coffin, the lid of the floating coffin opens up, and one by one the lights float into the black coffin cloud, until finally the last light flies inside of the coffin, and all the lights are gone. Now, just the black coffin cloud is floating there above the old field. It then begins to float towards a local graveyard, floats down to the ground, and disappears. What's interesting So, again, odd old news. Thank you for posting this. I've never heard of this story before. It's quite insane, really, and it's going to only get weirder. It's funny because, old-timey newspapers sometimes would print stuff that wasn't real. That does happen from time to time. It happens nowadays, too, but both times they know it's not real. They're just publishing something to either prove a point or to, back then, just to sell newspapers. And I guess they do that nowadays, too. They make up news just to keep you glued in on their television or exaggerate news, make it half true and all that stuff. That's never left journalism. But, this article, at the very bottom, one of the editors for the newspaper, one of the editors for the Sedalia Weekly wrote, sounds fishy. Now, you could put a little note in there, and then he wrote editor of Democrat, because it was the Sedalia Weekly Democrat, I think was the full name of the newspaper, yeah. So the editor's reading this, and he goes, I don't know. I don't know if I believe this. It did happen in this town. There's a bunch of people in town talking about it, because there was a lot of, it wasn't just the people in the hotel. There were a lot of witnesses around town that saw this, and the editor's like, I don't know if this is true. What's interesting, though, is you may be from Missouri or Oklahoma or simply have passed through or have a wide range of paranormal knowledge because this is a phenomenon known as the Spooklights. It's been seen for over 100 years in this part of Missouri and the adjoining part of Oklahoma, and these are mysterious lights that fly through the sky. This has been observed for over 100 years by the residents of this area. And back in I think it was the 40s, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, they came out to investigate it. It was 1946. Probably could have been rebuilding Europe, but instead, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, on some downtime, they decided to come out to Missouri and study the Spooklights, and they weren't able to figure it out. No one can figure it out. Or can they? This is super interesting. This is one of those paranormal phenomenon that is so repeatable, and it's been seen for so long in similar areas that people have often said there has to be a logical reason for this. Of course, there's old stories about Native Americans dying in battle or two star-crossed lovers killing themselves or whatever, and that's what causes these spook lights to appear. But they've been in this area, they've really been sighted since around the 1870s. That's what the stories say. I'm trying to keep this, I'm kind of scrambling stuff up. Hold on a second, let me back up here for a second. So, the spook lights, nowadays, people say they know what it is. They've actually designed tests to be able to mimic the spook lights. Scientists say we know exactly what it is. Even though these stories of spook lights go back to the 1870s, modern-day researchers say that's not true. That's not true. There were no sightings of the spook lights pre the invention of the automobile. So a story may start with, a long time ago, some pioneers are moving through this area and they saw the spook lights. But people who have studied this phenomenon today say that is just predating the story. There is zero proof that these spook lights were spotted before the invention of the automobile. Zero. You're like, Jason, didn't you just read us an article from 1875 proving that these were seen before the invention of the automobile? Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'm sorry. The flu in my brain is scattering my thoughts. The reason why they keep saying, modern day skeptics say the invention of the automobile, because what they believe it is a refraction or reflection of car lights coming down this particular freeway. And when these lights hit the right things at the right time underneath the right atmospheric conditions, it will appear as if these lights are floating in the sky. And people have set up all sorts of observable tests that can be repeated, showing that if you're able to set up the perfect conditions, you can make headlights from the road refract or reflect into the sky. And they go, well, that's what the spook lights is. It's just an optical illusion. How we'll see, every so often there's a story about a floating city or airplanes that appear to be standing still. They go, these are just optical illusions. And they say, this is how we know this is an optical illusion. And the problem with that is, sure, you actually can replicate that. You can make that work. But people say, well, my great-great-grandpa back in 1920 saw the Spooklights. And the skeptic's answer was always, no, that didn't happen, actually. What happened was your grandpa saw the Spooklights in 1955, and he made up saying he'd always seen them as a kid. It's a modern phenomenon that you can make up a backstory for. It happens all the time with ghosts. There's a little ghost girl in a bar. You'll see her sometimes giggling in the corner. Sometimes she's hiding underneath one of the tables. Sometimes she knocks over a bottle off of the bar. And these are legitimate sightings of this particular haunted bar. And then people go, that must be the ghost of Molly Riggins. Molly Riggins, back in 1920, she died of consumption. This place used to be a makeshift hospital. But it turns out that that's not true. So here, you can read about it. And scientists and skeptics go, there's no proof that these were ever sighted before the automobile. And anytime someone tries to tell you a story that their grandpa saw them back in 1908, it's simply not true. But Odd Old News found an article proving, this is so interesting, proving this is proof that they were sighted before the invention of the automobile. This is 100% a stake through the heart of that skeptic's argument. Now, I'll say this. I don't know if this is a paranormal event. This could be a natural occurrence. It could be some sort of swamp gas. It could be some sort of mass hallucination. But it's definitely not the car lights coming down the freeway. I don't know if Odd Old News realized when he posted this article how big this was. Buried somewhere in an 1875 newspaper is absolute proof that the Spooklights were spotted before the invention of the automobile. The skeptic's argument is destroyed. They can no longer say there's no proof of it. And it's all just headlights. This was not headlights. Headlights did not exist. Fascinating. Fascinating story. And again, just from the event, right? I don't know what it is. Was it UFOs? They're quite entertaining if they are. They're putting on a little dance. They're moving around like apples in disturbed water. What does any of the symbolism mean? It's funny because also this is the like you read the story and the editor goes, listen, I don't know if it's true. I'm publishing it in the newspaper. Even if it's so fascinating. It's talking about a phenomenon that continues to this day. It's the earliest recorded published account of it. So it actually makes me think it was true. They saw something. Fascinating stuff. Odd Old News. Check out his Substack. Seriously, check out his Substack because this is awesome stuff. This is awesome stuff. And again, he puts out way more content. He has a huge back catalog, more stuff than I could ever cover. I think we'll do stuff here and there, but all of it's fascinating stuff. He has one about a vampire. I was like, I need to read that one too. Here's the thing. I got to record my show, but I also just want to read these old-timey articles. So Odd Old News, thank you for posting this. Just absolutely awesome stuff. And again, destroys the skeptic's argument. Completely levels it. Rico in Acapulco, let's go ahead and toss you the keys to the world-famous Carpenter Copter. We are leaving behind Missouri. Why don't you fly us all the way out to a parking lot in the middle of the night? We get to this parking lot. It's pretty late. It's like 11 o'clock at night. There's only a couple cars in the lot. But you see kind of off in the distance the Jason Jalopy. And I go, okay, guys, let's head on home. Rico, you ready to drive us home? We're walking through the parking lot. It's not the best neighborhood. And kind of like looking around. I think it might be an American thing mostly. A lot of the sources said that this was an American issue, but I don't think it'll stay an American issue. In fact, that might be a big clue as to what is actually going on, if it's limited to America or not. Here it is. I'm going to say something you guys are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Have you guys noticed that a lot of parking lights and street lights have started to turn purple? Wait, I'm just going to sit here until I get a single email or YouTube comment saying yes. It's all over the place. I don't know how prevalent it is in other countries, but it's happening here in America. When you first see it, it's very off-putting. Actually, every time you see it, it's off-putting. I don't like it at all. Maybe the first time I thought, wow, this is like cyberpunk. But it's also like I don't want to park my car underneath the purple light. You can't see as well. You just can't. So the question is, why are these lights turning purple? I think originally I thought maybe it was some festive thing. Is there a purple holiday or something? Maybe the first time I didn't really even pay much attention to it. But as you start seeing it more and more, it's one of those things now where you're walking with somebody. It's like talking about the weather. You're walking with somebody, and as you're approaching a parking lot or a street, you're driving down a street, you see a purple light. People always say, what's up with the purple lights? It's something we all notice and talk about because it's very, it's off-putting. Nobody likes it, and we don't really know why. Now, with some simple research, you can figure out the official reason why, but I have my doubts about that. The official reason is this. Those lights are LED lights that were all installed a decade or two ago. And the LED is actually a blue light that they then put a covering on to filter out the blue light so it makes the light appear white or vanilla or off-white, a pleasant, calming, normal streetlight color. But over the years, the covering, like the actual, I'm trying to think of the exact word, but you have the LED, the filter, like the light filter, it wears off. It starts to wear off, it starts to decay, so now we're seeing purple light coming through, and eventually if the whole filter dissolves, it'll be blue light. That's the theory. That's not even theory. That's the official answer. If you look this up, what's up with all these purple streetlights? The official answer is it's the covering / filter that blocks the LED light that was set up 10, 20 years ago. They're starting to decay. That's why they go out one by one. And when you read about this, most of the time the articles are like, it's not a big deal. Not a big deal that this is happening. Which makes me super suspicious about what could really be going on. Because I'm telling you this, if you were driving a car that had LED lights and the filter disappeared, and now you have purple headlights, how quickly would it be before you got pulled over and got a ticket issued by the same city that has purple street lamps on the street and purple street lamps in the parking lot? You can't have it, but we can. If it's a simple thing as the lighting is decayed, the filtering is decayed, why aren't they being fixed? I get it, cities are almost entirely corrupt. They'll take all your money and do nothing with it. You go, Jason, that's why the lights stay the same. It's human greed. They don't want to spend the tax dollars on that. They want to buy a new boat. Local politicians. Maybe, right? I can see that happening. But here's the thing. Sometimes the streetlights are in private parking lots, like the parking lots of a retail store. And you go, well, Jason, that's a corporation. They don't want to pay money to get the lights fixed. Here's the thing. They're not safe. You cannot see as well underneath a purple light as you can a white light. You just can't. And you know this for a fact because you were either the teenager or when you were a teenager, you went over to someone's house that had black lights in their bedroom. And sure, it was cool, but you couldn't see anything if it wasn't glowing. If it didn't have some sort of black light activation, you go to sit on the bed, you're sitting on their cat. You can't see underneath them. You cannot see underneath them as clear as you can a white light. So these are lawsuits waiting to happen. I walked out to my car, all the lamps were purple, or most of the lamps were purple in this parking lot, and I didn't know that because I parked during the day. I couldn't see that well. Some guy jumped out from behind the car, dragged me off into a fight club, and punched me so hard, it seemed all my teeth were gone. These are liability suits waiting to happen. I accidentally got in a car wreck in this parking lot. I couldn't see. There's purple lights everywhere. So it's really weird that every article you read about this says this is a known problem and it's a simple fix. And yet, I've never seen any of these get fixed. In fact, I just see more and more. If we know what the problem is and it's an easy fix, it's a liability issue to not fix them. I know it costs money to hire a guy to climb up on a ladder and change the bulb and to buy the bulb in the first place. I get that. But a city or a private organization can be sued for a ton of money because they don't work. You cannot see as well. The reason why I'm saying all that is that I almost feel if you had a parking lot that a business had and they didn't have any working parking lot lights, that would be a liability issue. You could sue them for that if something happened to you there. Especially because you didn't know. You showed up during the day. A purple light is half as useless as pitch blackness. It's really that jarring. Plus, it's unpleasant. It's not safe. It should be a liability issue, and I don't think they're treating it as a liability issue because there might be a darker reason why these lights are purple. It may not simply be that the filter's going out, because if that was the case, there'd be lawsuits to get them fixed. You'd have people saying, hey, my neighborhood's already bad enough. Streetlights are purple. I can't see when people are breaking into my car. So let's look at the conspiracy theories surrounding these purple lights. I find this really, really interesting. This was posted, and I had thought a little bit. I mean, obviously, Jason, you've obviously put a lot of thought into this purple light stuff. You sound like you're just writing letters to the editor all week. Well, here's the thing. I thought about how much I dislike them, but I never really thought about like conspiracy theories or why it's happening. Because I had heard originally it's an environmental thing. They're changing them to purple lights, so it's like less energy. And of course, I was just like, that it is stupid still, but it totally makes sense that some bonehead would go, oh, this will save the Earth 0.0001 carbon meters. So everyone is going to get mugged. Everyone's going to get their car broken into. Doesn't matter because it's lowering the temperature by a smidgen. When I first heard that, I was like, that's ridiculous. And I didn't really even think much else about it. I just kind of griped about it. But then in preparation for research for this story, I found out, the actual reason is the filter going on. Because someone posted recently on the X board, they said, avoid the purple streetlights at all costs. And that was it. They didn't really give much backing for it. They just were saying, avoid them. And that obviously allowed people to fill in the blanks. Why should we avoid the purple streetlights at all costs? And we got a whole gamut of conspiracy theories that are attached to this, obviously, like we see with so many events. First off, you have people talking about this is related to the 5G. The 5G waves that are constantly going through our bodies from all these 5G towers holding the 5G phones in our hands and in our pockets. I'll say this about the 5G conspiracy theory. I believe that there is probably something unhealthy about 5G waves. Maybe, maybe not. But whenever people want to talk about controlled disinformation, the 5G conspiracy theories are the best ones to look at. Because you can have people with reasonable health concerns. They're not certain, but they go, hey, isn't it kind of weird we have to have all these towers? They're shooting these invisible waves through our body, and we have this phone, and it's going into the phone, and there's more 5G towers than 4G towers. They have to be closer to each other. They're closer to residential neighborhoods than old cell phone towers. Shouldn't we have some questions about this? That guy gets lumped in with the 5G activates the the vaccination antibodies, the little nanobots in you. The 5Gs is all part of the COVID cover-up. 5Gs are turning you into a zombie. 5Gs are controlling your brain. All that stuff. And that's a totally different, albeit entertaining, conspiracy theory to go down. It'd be the same thing if back in the 70s and 80s, someone goes, hey, I'm pretty sure that smoking gives you lung cancer. I'm pretty sure, like, if you look at these studies and we look at cancer rates, but those people got lumped into, did you know that if you smoke cigarettes, you turn into a Soviet zombie and your eyes pop out of your head and you start walking around like a Russian? And so you couldn't have the logical debate about the health effects of cigarettes because people would go, oh, you also probably believe that you turn into a Soviet zombie. I'm not even going to listen to what you're saying. 5G, there is a legitimate health concern that I don't think has been fully addressed. But when you bring up 5G conspiracy theories or just 5G, people go, oh, you're talking about chemtrails and COVID, robot, nanobots, all that stuff. I'm not going to pay attention to anything you say. That being said, we're not going to go any deeper than that on this one. I do think 5G, I think there are health concerns. I don't think, and I'm not the final arbiter either. I'm going to say I don't think that is really why the purple lights are here. I have a theory that I agree with, but you can go, well, maybe it is the 5G. Maybe it is, as nanobots are bursting out of your skull. Maybe that one time the conspiracy theorists were right. Speaking of COVID, there are people who believe the purple lights are somehow related to that it activates the nanobots in the vaccine. And people have said, the purple lights phenomenon predated COVID. So it does kind of shoot that one in the leg or in the arm with the natural vaccination shot, but that is a conspiracy theory that's going out around this one. For the sake of including it, one guy said I don't know how true this story is. If it was, it'd be amazing, but this guy said he saw a purple light once, and as he was walking towards his car, the Pokemon Ditto showed up. Or a creature resembling Ditto, just a purple blob. And then he blacked out. He doesn't remember anything else after that. Now, I think he's probably joking. Right? I think he's joking. If he's not, that's awesome. I guess not. He's like, what? I saw a purple blob and passed out. You think that's awesome? And kinda. I mean, it happened to you, not me. But, I think that's a thing when you see people anonymously posting stuff, throwing out conspiracy theories. Some are really strongly held. Other people are just having a laugh. But you know what's funny is that the one thing that did kind of go, well, that could be the case. And it's the most ridiculous one of all, to be fair. It's the most ridiculous one of all, to be fair. And that's basically that and I'm not saying I totally believe in this, but I go, well, that's reasonable. That's the idea that the purple lights may be some sort of gateway for... Like, how many times did you get hit in the head during your Fight Club career, Jason? I'm going to say, when I see purple lights, I find them very off-putting. I actually find them more off-putting than probably most people. You could be listening to this, you're like, dude, why does he have wrong with purple lights? I mean, like, they're not the best, but you're like, I'm going to write the mayor, I'm going to become the mayor and ban purple, all the color purple. I don't like purple lights. I think a lot of people don't, but maybe I am a little more actively dislikeful of them. They might be a gateway. Either for something demonic or something alien. And here, what's interesting is I hadn't really even thought about that. I hadn't really considered anything special about the purple lights until I read this post. And I was reading all of these different theories, and the one someone posted was like, it's a way for the Dracos, which are like the lizard aliens, to come through. It's the right frequency that these alien lizard people can come through the light, and because of the COVID thing, I don't believe this part, but basically, this is kind of like a mishmash theory. People who got the COVID vaccine, they appear differently in the purple light, and so it's a way to track them. But then also, the Dracos use the purple lights. Well, let me back up here. The local government or the Illuminati or whoever's running this scheme, they make the lights purple to let the Dracos know this is a good area to abduct humans and either turn them into food or slaves, or both. I mean, technically, if you really wanted to be efficient, you could eat half of a person but still leave them like 2 arms and a leg. Or, no, 2 legs and an arm, I meant. You just eat one of his arms, and then he's a slave with the rest of his body. You can do that, right? Have a nibble on the ear. He doesn't need ears. He's a slave. Well, I guess you are going to be yelling at him a lot. Where's my supper? Oh, here you are. Arr, arr, arr. You eat him. Now listen, you go, Jason, wait. You're saying that you think that lizard people or demons are actually jumping through the lights and grabbing people? Not necessarily. I will say, though, that when I looked into this, I did try to find a correlation between areas with lots of purple lights and missing person cases. And while I wasn't able to find a direct correlation behind that, you do start to, I think this is not super relevant, but you do start to see a connection between areas with lots of purple lights and high crime areas. But the reason why they say high crime areas don't often have the money to fix the lights anyways. So they're just going to stay purple. But a purple light, I would feel safer if I was a criminal to commit crimes underneath purple lights than underneath white lights. I'd be much more comfortable sneaking up on someone and stealing their backpack than in a purple light than a white light. Why'd you specify? Like you said, you were fine with crime, but then you gave a very specific example. Stealing someone's backpack. That's like the hardest thing to steal from another person. It's literally attached to their body. I mean, the reason why people are called purse snatchers, because that's easy. A backpack, some hiker, it's like loaded down with 40 pounds of gear. I was like, this will finally cement me as the world's #1 backpack thief. Yeah, so anyways, there was a correlation between that, but then I think that is very logical. To then say aliens and demons are then attacking people in high crime areas, because the lights are purple, they're coming out of the purple lights, that's less reasonable. I don't think the purple lights I think it was already a high crime area is what I'm getting at, and then the lights became purple. But on the other hand, if I was a reptilian cannibalistic slave owner, I would attack high crime areas. Because people are going to go missing more frequently, right? You won't know if that gangbanger, if he got shot, if he got tied up in the trunk of a car, or if he's on a Draco's dinner plate. You just don't know. It sounds ridiculous, and I totally agree with you. It does sound ridiculous. I'm not saying I'm married to this theory, but what's interesting is we've covered something very similar to this a long time ago, and that was the idea that demons can... So here's the thing. The theory is that demons are attracted to the LED light frequency. The lights that used to keep us safe, that used to keep the monsters away, fire and then filament, has gone to the wayside. An LED light, while it is more efficient and the bulbs last longer, the idea was, no, that was actually a conspiracy theory by either these reptilian aliens or demonic entities to create a light source that wouldn't hurt them, for one, and two, would attract them through the darkness. It actually gives them power. They can move through the LED frequency. They can step in and out of the LED light. It attracts them like moths to a flame. And not just that, they regulated it. They, to their Illuminati slaves, they go, you need to make it so everyone has LED lights. In fact, you can't have anything but LED lights. And this is part of the stage for either a global takeover or a global harvesting by these aliens or demons. So it's a conspiracy theory we've covered before. I'll put that episode in the show notes. And when you kind of tie them together, it does kind of make sense. Now, if this is your first time listening to this podcast, you're like, what? It doesn't make sense at all. I'm more concerned about robots in my bloodstream than what he's talking about. It does make sense. It's not likely. It's probably not the reason why. But here's the thing. I don't think the reason why is the reason they're telling us either. I think they're hiding something from us. When infrastructure fails, I get it. The bridge here in town is 100 years old, and they're going to have to build a new bridge, and they're going to start it in like 5 years or so. It's taken a long time to get all the money to get this bridge put together. That is way different than getting a light bulb installed. And getting these lights fixed, it's a liability issue. People will sue when things go wrong, and they'll sue the store, or they'll sue the city to say, this happened, and it was because I couldn't see what was going on in the parking lot. This is a very simple, if it's what they say it is a very simple fix. You should see 1 or 2 purple lights every so often. Because of course bulbs are going to go out. But when I see a purple light, it's there forever. I don't think I've ever seen a purple light become a white light. Now that could also be because the purple light, I see it and it affects me. And when it's changed back to the white light, I don't think about it anymore. That's possible. We have a couple purple lights here in town, and they're just growing in number. Maybe we're becoming a harvest section for the Dracos. Unlikely, but I still think there's something more to the story than what they're telling us. I don't think it's 5G. I don't think it's COVID. It probably isn't aliens or demons either. It's just interesting that an episode we did 1,000 episodes ago kind of pops back up, almost word for word. So that was really odd to see that. They're not telling us what's actually going on. I don't think it's the filter thing. It also makes you wonder, well, then why'd they make the LED inside blue in the first place? Why didn't they just make it a white LED? And then you wouldn't need a filter and it would shine down. You just replace the bulbs every once in a while. I don't know what's going on, but I really don't think it's the reason why they're telling us. And sometimes, in the absence of information, or when you're given information that just doesn't sound right, it does cause the brain to start to think of the wackiest possibilities. And I think that's what's going on here, myself included. Like, I don't believe that that's what's going on, so I go, oh, maybe it's aliens. Maybe this is the way that aliens are figuring out where to get their next meal and or slave, because I don't have enough information, or I think the information they're giving me is bumpkiss. Here's the thing, though. If I'm wrong, not a big deal, right? I just get to sue the city when I get hit by a car underneath a purple light. But if I'm not going to say I'm right, because I don't necessarily believe it, but if this is right, if the Draco invasion is at hand, and they don't even really want to invade, they just want to enslave us and eat us, which is worse, I would argue. Maybe Hood River, maybe our little slice of heaven in the Pacific Northwest is turning into a smorgasbord for the Dracos, because these purple lights are popping up everywhere. And what would old Jason do if the Dracos came to get him? Well, we all know the old saying. It's better to serve on your feet than die on a plate. Wait, what? So you'd rather be a slave than eaten? No, I got it wrong. It's better to be eaten feet first than to die on your knees. You're like, Jason, I think the Dracos somehow went back in time and turned your Fight Club into a concussion-making machine. What? You know the old saying, it's better to die on your feet than serve on your knees or live on your knees, whatever? Serve on your knees makes it sound like you're giving someone a blowjob. No, not that, right? It's better to be, I think if someone goes, listen, we can give you a choice. We will either eat you or you'll be a slave. I don't know which one I'd pick, actually. Because they might eat me super slowly. Like, if I go, you can eat me, and then they stab me and I die, do whatever with my body, I don't care. I'm not alive. But if they're like, yes, the 12 days of Christmas, we're going to take one bite out of you over the next 12 days, I'm like, no! Like, Jason, there's only 12. I think you can survive 12 bites. I think you'll be okay. I was like, no, look at me. I have 12 little bite marks on me. Just kill me now. Or would I rather be a slave? The problem with being a slave would be, numerous, right? You're like, I wonder what this list is going to be. I've always wondered what's been wrong with being a slave. Let's see what Jason has to say. Being a slave would be horrible, but imagine being a slave to an alien race. That would be worse. That would be way worse. You're like, kind of, I guess. Slavery's pretty bad anyways, Jason. You're like, oh no, look at, I'm a slave to an armadillo. Oh, this is the worst. The armadillo's just rolling past you. Slavery, it would be horrible, but I think being the slave of an alien would be worse. To be fair, I don't actually know why. Because slavery's already so bad, but I figured they'd probably make you do things that you didn't know how to do. Like, at least if I'm on Earth and I'm a slave, my slave master goes, hey, we need you to take these reports upstairs. I was like, okay. Like, that's just the job. Okay, let's say that I'm a slave and they're like, hey, how many bales of cocoa beans did you pick today? And I was like, 27, 28, something like that, I don't know. And he's like, you're a bad slave. You need to pick more cocoa beans. I'm all eating them. I'm like, how many cocoa beans did you pick today? None. The field's empty as I'm suffering from diabetes, stage 5. But an alien would be like, we need you to take these grava up through the anti-grav chamber and drop them off in the black hole. You're like, what? I just got here. Hold on, man. I just got abducted by aliens. Let me think about this a little bit. I was just walking out of my car underneath a purple light. What? Anti-grav? Black holes? This actually sounds fantastic. They're like, your slave master goes, okay, we have a very important task for you. You have to go back in time and prevent the species from ever being born on Thraxis 7. You're like, oh, that sounds so cool. But they hate it. They make their slaves do jobs they hate. They're like, hey, can you test all these laser rifles? You're all shooting around stuff. You're like, this is the best slavery ever. I don't know what Jason was talking about. Anyways, I think it would be worse, but I guess it would really depend on what they had you do. If you did get to test laser rifles and alter the time stream, I think it'd be okay to serve on your knees in those situations. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great one.